Okay, good morning, afternoon, evening. I don't know what time it is wherever you're listening. I don't know what day it is wherever you're listening, but how's it going,
Mhm.
guys? How are you all? Welcome back. Hope you guys are all doing well. You already know what this is. This is the Diaspora Project podcast. I am your host, Abigail Okanse. And we've got a really interesting episode for you guys today. I mean, we try and keep it interesting for you guys all the time, but this one I'm exceptionally excited about. So you guys already know I personally believe that leaders are readers, and books are amazing, and that books are a great place to escape and expand your mind. And we've kind of been trying to champion that on our page recently, with a lot of different book recommendations and things. But we've got a really exciting installment into this book series that we're doing, and I'm really excited about this because I am honored, privileged to be meeting with a young writer who is currently operating in that space. I'm here today with Efe. How's it going, Efe?
It's going really well. That was an incredible introduction.
We try, we really do try. So, how are you doing? How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. I've had a good day so far, and your introduction definitely made it better.
Oh, wait, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So, we're going to be speaking with you a little bit over the next sort of hour, 30 minutes, that kind of thing, to be talking to
Yeah.
you about your experiences, not just as a reader, but as a writer, which is incredible. As somebody who is, quite young in that space and already making waves. But before we get there, let's just, what I'm saying, let's break the ice down, make sure that we're, what I'm saying, we're nice and comfortable. So, we want to ask you a few questions just to make sure that we're,
Mhm.
what I'm saying, we're on the same page. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Are you ready?
I hope so. I hope so.
I hope so too. So,
Yeah.
the first question, what I'm saying, be guided, please, with your answer. The
Mhm.
first question, Supermole, yes or no?
It's gonna have to be a no from me, though. To be honest, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just don't like the taste of it. It's never been for me.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I know. You
Well,
could take
thank
my
you for
West
listening,
African card away
everyone.
from me.
You thought it was gonna work out, but it's not gonna. No, it's okay. What I'm saying? Everybody's allowed to have, opinions, even if their opinions are wrong. So,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So, what is your favorite food then? If you don't like Supermole, what are you into?
I don't want to be a stereotypical Nigerian, but I do love jollof rice. And I also love like abuja bread. It's just
Mm,
it's so sweet. It's so sweet.
okay.
And my dad does this thing where he tries to combine like different Nigerian elements with like traditional European elements. So sometimes he will like make abuja bread like French fried bread, and it's so good.
Wow.
And then I also love the Chinese slash Nigerian fried rice he makes. Yeah,
Wow.
my dad is like as a master chef for real. He needs his own show. But yeah, those are my favorite foods.
That's incredible. I like that. I like that. It's unique. Okay, like a little fusion of cultures,
Yeah,
Abuja style French toast, Abuja toast.
yeah,
Can we get that?
yeah.
Can we,
Abuja
can we get?
toast.
Can we make that started? Can we make that something? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll talk to my dad about the trademark stuff because you need to kind of check.
Awesome. And so finally, if you were stuck on a desert island and you could only take three things with you, what are those three things and why?
Oh, I don't know. The thing is, I'd say I'd bring like my Spotify playlist, but I'm assuming there's no internet on this abandoned desert island. So I'd bring a very, very, very good album with me. I'd have to
Mm,
decide which one it is, but I definitely need music because if I'm on a stranded island, I need something to like sustain me. And
mm.
then I'd say I'd bring a book. I don't know if it'll be my book though, because I think reading my words over and over again would eventually irritate me to death. So I'll bring a book, and then the last thing I would bring, probably my Bible.
Okay. Okay, so an album, a book, and your Bible. Okay, cool. I mean, like you're saying, you're very biased about maybe which book you might take.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? So that's a perfect little segue for us to start talking about your book because, like I said, you are, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, a published author. Let's go. A novelist. That's what we like to see. Awesome. So you have written a whole book. Like you are a whole writer. So can you tell us a bit
Yeah.
about that? Tell us about your book. What's your book called?
So my book is called Essay, the Misadventures of Moving Forward, and it's about the hijinks, turmoil, and euphoria of adolescence and growing up through the eyes of an unconventional protagonist and this diverse group of friends. So Essay has always moved around, but when he was 12 years old, he found this place called Churchill, which became his home away from home, basically. He made friends, he found family, he found community, and he thought he would always have that. But when his mum all of a sudden comes in, guns are blazing, jollof rice in tow, it's like, you like it here, you feel at home here, you feel comfortable here. Well, that's great. You're moving in December. And that just like takes his like world, that just like turns his world upside down. So it
Mm,
deals with the aftermath of that. And then also it deals with questions of sexuality, identity, culture, fitting in, bullying. So
mm,
him moving is the catalyst for us to like explore wider sociological phenomena, basically. And then I call
mm.
it YA romance with a socially conscious and comedic twist. So it's an amalgamation of a lot of different things.
That is fascinating. No, I love it because, like you're saying, it's almost a little bit. I mean, it's a very it's a scenario that most people can in some way relate to, or know somebody who's been through a scenario similar. Because come on, we've all been young people, being in
Yeah,
school and the turmoils of being a young adolescent. But I think the way you wrote the book and the way you write these characters, it really speaks to, like you're saying, this unconventional protagonist and seeing the world through their eyes.
yeah.
Why, why write a book about, essaying, going through all this, um, you know, ups and downs of adolescent life? What's the
Yeah,
purpose of
yeah.
that?
That's a good question because I wanted to like balance the universality of adolescence, but also get into the specificity of like Black adolescence or BAME adolescence because there are nuances that have been explored, but I wanted to explore it myself. And I
Mm,
hope through this book, people that may not hold essays identities as far as like race and sexuality can empathize with the essays they see in the world, the essays they see in the media, the
mm,
essays that are in their lives because yeah, moving schools, dealing with romance, dealing with crushes, dealing with unrequited crushes, that is all normal. But the stakes are higher, the stakes are different for characters like Essay, for people like us, for many reasons. So yes, Essay's dealing with school stuff, but also what does it mean for Essay to be a young a young black person that's perceived as a boy and seeing police brutality on his TV screen all the time? What does it mean for Essay to be a teenager, but also have to bear the responsibility of explaining race to his friends, to be
mm,
an encyclopedia on blackness when he's just discovering what blackness means to himself? These are things that these are things that are specific to Essay, but at the same time he's going through the universal experience of adolescence, of growing up, of hijinks. So I wanted to like create that balance and hopefully it'd be a reflection for characters or people like Essay, but then also raise awareness for people that may not understand what people like Essay or what people like him go through, basically.
mm. And I love it. I think, like we're saying, these are scenarios that everyone can relate to, but it's the lens, isn't it? It's that lens that is
Yeah,
the thing that brings that added layer of interest. Because, like you're saying, for a lot of us as Black people, our adolescence is not the same as the adolescence of our peers. Unfortunately, the things we have to
yeah,
experience, our peers don't. And I love that about the book. I love that about the characters, that you see that very clearly in
yeah,
amongst the ordinary life of this teenager,
yeah.
which is so fascinating. And I remember I'm reading the chapter. I mean, you guys are gonna read this book is gonna launch tonight, so you guys are gonna be able to read all about it yourselves. But like you're saying, as a character who is Black, having to bear the responsibility of their Blackness. I
Yeah.
think that's something that we all go through. I think as young Black adolescents, is that something that you've experienced as well?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced it. I remember it was an experience in my old school when I was 13, where I asked my head teacher during a lunchtime, I think it's September and October is obviously UK and European Black History Month. If it's not obvious to you, it should be. But yeah, I basically asked him, "Oh, what are you guys doing for Black History Month?" Because I just assumed that something would be planned, like the same way that Chinese New Year was on the school calendar. I thought, "Oh, Black History Month is on the school calendar," and I was just curious. And this guy must have no day younger than 45, probably 50 at this point. He looked at me where he looked at me with dopey eyes and confusion imprinted on his face and said, "What's Black History Month?" And I'm like,
Mm-mm.
wow, wow. And it's like this guy, 30 plus years my senior, has ascended to probably one of the highest ranks in our school, doesn't know what Black History Month is, a significant not holiday, but significant celebration for a good chunk of the student population. Yes, we are a minority, but that doesn't mean we're any less significant or important. So
Mm.
then I took it upon myself to email all my teachers from across different subjects, from maths to English to music to PE to science to whatever, just telling them my ideas and trying to plan ways to integrate Black History Month into the lesson plan. And then I remember in year 10, I did presentations for each of the year groups during assembly from year 7 to year 8 to year 9 to year 10 and year 11.
Mm.
And while that was a very empowering experience and it definitely helped me become a stronger, more confident public speaker, in hindsight, that was too much responsibility for a 13, 14-year old. That shouldn't have been something that shouldn't have been a burden I took on.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have been my cross to bear. I should have just been focused on being a teenager, going through regular teenage experiences, having crushes, going to parties, making mistakes, not failing tests because I'm Nigerian, succeeding in tests, and just focusing on the misadventures of moving forward. Shout out to my book, Essay The Misadventures of Moving Forward.
Come
But
on.
but because but because but because I was black and because I cared about my community, I couldn't just let Black History Month and other things fall by the wayside. And even in my friendships, because I went to a predominantly white school, I naturally have predominantly white friends. As much as I loved and appreciate my friends, and I still keep in contact with a lot of them, it was it was a lot of responsibility. I felt like I had to teach them about certain things. I felt like I had
Mm-hmm.
to teach them about racism. I had to tell them why it's permissible for black people to say N word, but it's not permissible for them or other people of other races to say the N word. And I
Mm.
felt like every single day before school, I had to do my homework because I knew that I wasn't just going to school as FA the teenager or FA the friend. I was going to school FA the black representative because I also understood that I also understood for whatever reason they saw us as a monolith. So I knew whatever like feedback or whatever information I was giving them that would dictate how they interacted with the other black students around them. And naturally, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how, but I was friends with all the black people. There were like five of us, so it wasn't as difficult.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but naturally, we had this like fictive kinship. Like even though we may have been from different countries or may have spoke different languages or may have not even been in the same classes, I felt this protectiveness of them, and I felt like it was my responsibility to be this perfect representative, perfect vessel,
Yeah.
so they didn't have to deal with the they didn't have to deal with the negativity. But
100%.
then but at the same time, that also led me to be I think, very dogmatic, and also in the way sometimes I interacted with some of the black students as well, because I had a best
Mm.
friend, and I remember he used to let people touch his hair, and I was
Mm.
like, "Ugh." But I don't like people touching my hair.
Mm.
I didn't like people touching my hair at all. But because he was okay with people touching his hair, then sometimes people would come to me and be like touching my hair, and they'll be like, and then when I would look at them like, "Are you okay? Like, what's
Mm.
going on?" They would say, "Oh, well, such and such let me touch his hair," and I'm like, "It's such and such FA. I'm
Exactly.
such and
Yeah,
such.
yeah,
No, we're two separate people."
yeah.
So
It's a shame
so
how
I
black people we get
yeah,
seen as like the same. Like
as the
one
same,
person will,
yeah.
yeah, one person will allow you to do something. I'm not them.
Yeah, and it's like even, and there'll even be days where, okay, I'm just so tired. I'll be like, okay, you can touch my hair, and then the next day they'll just like grab it, and I'll be like, and they'll be like, oh, well, you let me do it yesterday, and I'm like, yesterday is not today. And like consent isn't like you don't get like an all access pass to consent. It's not like you get like a day ticket, and
Hmm.
that's not how consent works. It's situational, and we would understand this in any other context. We would understand it
Yeah.
well, some people don't understand it, but if it was like a sexual context, you'd understand it. But
Hmm.
apparently, when it comes to like my bodily autonomy or my right to my body, uh, unfortunately, consent went out the window for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Again, as we grew older, things changed, and my friends wouldn't try that stuff with me anymore. But as we were younger,
Yeah.
especially when we're like teenagers, young teenagers,
Hmm.
it was a journey. It was a journey. I'd say that.
Oh, 100%. And I think you touched on what you just said just sums it up perfectly is that, especially in context of the book, like our experiences are so, we have to become so much more mature so much
Yeah,
faster, and become our own scholars in our own, like you're saying, in Black history and, you know, Black culture, whatever that means to people, to be able
yeah,
to educate the people around us,
yeah,
sometimes even in order to keep ourselves safe from
yeah,
from prejudice and that kind of thing, and always having to be the defender
yeah,
of your race. That's one
yeah,
thing my mom used to say to us is, I kind of had a similar experience, grew up in a place where it's predominantly surrounded by white people, so we got told a lot, you're representing the Black people. So
yeah,
as a kid or as one small family, you're the representation of an entire continent of people.
yeah.
And that's a heavy burden to bear. It's a really heavy
Yes,
burden to bear.
especially for like a young child whose mind is still developing, whose sense of self is still forming.
Hmm.
Like we shouldn't have to have that responsibility. Or like sometimes even in like popular media, sometimes let's say Beyonce does something wrong and they'll be like, wow, Beyonce, you are such a bad representative for Black women. But let Taylor Swift do something wrong. Nobody's saying, wow, Taylor Swift. Wow. Look at how you're representing white women. You have white
100.
women messed up. Nobody's doing that. Like Black people are so diverse, Black people are so multifaceted, Black people are flawed,
Hmm.
Black people make mistakes. And one Black person's mistake should just be that one Black person's mistake.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, because we haven't had representation for a long time, when we finally do get the crumbs we deserve, it's like we have all this responsibility, and it's not just enough for us to be a good representative of ourselves. We now have to be a good representative of people that we don't even know.
Hmm.
And it's really wild, and it can be an empowering response. It can be empowering as well as stifling, because it's empowering for me to know that, oh, I'm standing on the shoulders of people that have come before me, or people that have struggled, or people that have had trials and tribulations. But at the
Hmm.
same time, it's stifling as well, because it doesn't allow me to be free, to be
Yeah.
flawed, to be my authentic self. Because I'm not just in a room just being myself. I'm in a room thinking about how all these other people are thinking of me, and how that's going to have a knock-on effect on the next Black person that goes into the room,
Yeah.
on the next door that opens. And if they don't like the way I go into the door, who's to say they're not going to shut the door for the next Black
For the next
person? and
person. Yeah.
and that's not fair as well, because if I'm a bad person, or if you don't like me, you don't like me. That should not have that should not have an impact on the way that you see other Black people. But again, if I'm your only representative of Blackness, then that will be how you see Black people. So that's why
Hmm.
it's important to have Black people in these spaces, and to have different types of Black people in these spaces, no matter their skin color, no matter their age, no matter their sexuality, no matter their gender
Hmm.
identity, no matter their class status, because Black people are just as diverse as any other people.
Hmm.
And I think that is important to showcase. And I hope I showcase that through the book. And I hope I'm showcasing that as I'm speaking. And I want to showcase that in whatever I do.
Hmm.
If I'm successful, if I'm the only one ascending to the highest of heights, to the upper echelons of society, I'm not doing it right. I'm
Hmm.
not successful. I'm a failure.
Hmm.
If I'm getting all these, if I'm here, they should be here as well. We should all
Yeah.
be
We should
here.
be there
And I
together.
want to I want to bring my people up. And I
100.
know that, yeah, and I know that also, because of the way I speak, because I'm articulate, because I know these big vocab words. I'm viewed as more respectable as maybe say the person that's from Peckham or the person that didn't have the privilege to get the education I did. And I know that there have been certain instances where they like tried to pit me against other black people. And I've had to push back on that and be like, okay, just because this person isn't like me doesn't mean that he, she, or they are less valuable. Like
Mm,
I want to pull up every single type of black person, from the respectable Negro to the ghetto girl to the around the way girl to the boy
mm,
that's from the projects to the people that just had like a bad lot in life. Because a lot of the stuff I've been able to achieve is just because of my own tenacity, but a lot of it is
mm,
just the privilege of being able to be born to like middle class parents that
mm,
valued education, that had middle class parents that valued education,
mm,
that had middle class parents that valued education, and so on and so
mm.
forth. So I want to pay it forward in whatever I do.
Wow. Wow. Mic drop. I could just turn that off right now. Um, no, that's incredible. Like that's, and again, that's kind of a huge part about what we're about at the Diaspora Project as well. I mean, what we talk about is, connecting people back to Africa and their home countries and their cultures and heritage. But part of that also is that connection should bring mutual success for all of us.
Yeah,
And being able to work together as a community, as a
yeah,
people. And again, we're not a monolith. We're not all the same, but
yeah,
um, we've all, unfortunately, because of our skin, because of the history of oppression towards Black people, we're all
yeah,
suffering in a way that is similar.
yeah,
So we need to do something to kind of elevate our people and help us give ourselves the leg up that we can.
yeah,
Sometimes we operate with that crabs in a barrel mentality that there's
yeah,
only enough spaces for a few of us. Like, guys, if you're listening to that, please bun that mindset. Please, please, please. Like, that
yeah.
is really not, that is not true.
Put
That
it in an
is,
oven and incinerate it because it's BS. It's BS.
it's
And it's like,
actually, it's
yeah,
perpetuated to keep us down, really and truly.
it is. And it's like for me, it's like for me, sometimes even I struggle with this crabs in the barrel mentality. I'm gonna tell a very embarrassing story, but
Oh, we're
basically
excited. Let's go.
it's exciting, it's embarrassing, but like it leads into like a larger conversation.
Mm,
I remember I moved to just my old school in year eight. And so from year eight to year nine, I was like the only black person in my friendship group. So when people would ask me questions about blackness or Nigeria or my language, I would be the sole representative. And I was educated to a certain extent, but I didn't grow up in Nigeria. I don't
mm,
speak the language fluently.
mm,
So there are a lot of things where I was just like remixing it. But I had nobody to hold me accountable or whatever. So it's like, so
mm,
yeah. But then in year 10, there was another black person that moved to my school, and he was athletic. He was from Nigeria, so he had a better grasp on his native language than I did on
mm,
my native language. And then I remember when I was in year 8 and year 9, a lot of people like comment on how like I had very strong thighs. And I remember one time we were at the gym, and then one of my white friends were like, "Wow, this guy has really, really strong thighs. They're even stronger than yours." And I got so mad, and I was like, and I was like, it's embarrassing, it's embarrassing. And then he was more athletic than me. He just had a deeper connection to the culture. And when I would like say facts that were like wrong or not necessarily fully accurate about Nigeria, he would like nip it in the bud. And people would be like, oh wow, he's more Nigerian than you. So even though I liked the guy, I ended up being like very intimidated by him because I was like,
mm,
he's stealing my spot. I'm supposed to be the token. I'm supposed to be the token. And at the end of the day, it's like, no, because when I got new white friends, you think my white friends were worried about me replacing them? No. So
mm,
why would I think that just because there's a new Nigerian on the block, that means my residency has ended? If
mm,
if my residency has ended because there's a new Nigerian on the block, that means that my friends view us as interchangeable, and therefore they're not really my friends.
mm,
So either way, I should have befriended him. I should have used what he was stronger at me, what his strengths. I should have used his strengths to strengthen myself
yeah.
because because he was a light and I was a light, and the lights don't have to snuff out each other. The lights can illuminate each other. And I think if I would have going back to if I'm skipping ahead, but like if I was to go back and talk to younger F, I would have been like,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you are black because you are black. You are Nigerian
Mm-hmm.
because you are Nigerian. Somebody being different than you, somebody's Nigerian heritage or Nigerianness manifesting different from you doesn't invalidate your connection to your culture.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel like it does, then maybe there's something that you can explore. Like get
Mm-hmm.
curious, not furious.
I might have to steal that. I can't lie. Get curious, not furious. Wow.
Yeah,
No, it's the truth.
because yeah,
And I mean,
yeah,
you made a very interesting comment about feeling not Nigerian enough. Um,
yeah,
I mean, that could be a whole episode in and of itself. Is this
yeah,
idea of like there's ranks
yeah.
in our
This,
heritage or our how connected we feel or ranks in identity. Like what?
yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
it's just
because
a very
like yeah,
strange. Mhm.
yeah, because even I understand like my language and I understand Pidgin English, but I won't dare speak it because I know I'm gonna sound ridiculous because I have this very obvious British accent. Like even one day I was on TikTok and I was just talking about my book, and then a random stranger was like, "Oh, are you British?" And I was like, yeah. And how do you, and then I'm like, and I asked her, how do you know? It's like, oh, I can tell from your accent. And it's like she didn't ask me, am I Nigerian? So it's like, oh, like
Mhm.
even in my voice, there's a disconnect. And that's not like a
Mhm.
bad thing because I'm very proud to be British because I understand that Britishness and whiteness are not synonymous. My Britishness and my blackness don't contradict or
Yeah.
conflict with each other, and they never did. They coexist inside my burgeoning identity. So yeah. So for me it's like even now I'm in the school I'm in, there are Nigerians that speak their native language that have very distinctive, very strong, very thick Nigerian accents. And I'm not gonna lie and say that doesn't make me feel a way a little bit because it's like,
Mm.
oh, I wish I had that. I
Mhm.
wish I had that, but by the same time, I don't wish I grew up in Nigeria because there are certain opportunities, certain things that I wouldn't have been able to do if I grew up in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But then I wish I had that connection that I see that my parents have, that I see that my cousins that stayed in Nigeria have. But I also know the struggles that come with that. So it's just this constant back and forth in
Mhm.
identity. And
Yeah.
while I'm comfortable in who I am, I still want to be more deeply entrenched in my Nigerian culture.
Mm. Mhm. That is, I think, and again, that echoes a lot of what our listeners, our viewers feel as well, is that feeling of disconnect and kind of, it's not necessarily a negative thing because, like you're saying, our blackness and our Britishness, and your Nigerianness, my Ghanaianness, they can all live together happily in a little compound.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's kind of
it can.
deciding, or yeah, like you're saying, it's deciding to become more curious and deciding, okay, I think I
Yeah,
want to explore this further.
yeah,
Which I think is kind of, going back to the book, I think it's kind of an interesting feature of, again, this character is that you see their identity bleeding through the pages in
yeah,
the best possible way. But you also, I guess, I mean, you're the one who wrote this character, you can tell me, I guess you can maybe see that as well through this character, is that balance between the British experience and then being a Nigerian and having those
yeah.
two coming together.
Yeah,
Um,
because it's a very unique experience. Like the British Nigerian experience is so different from just be the Nigerian growing up in Nigeria experience, and it's
mhm,
so British to the white British experience. Because even when I'm having conversations with my friends, I have a best friend,
mhm.
and he's white, he's a white British guy, and then we were talking about just like our home life and stuff. And then I asked him, "Oh, when you open up the butter container, what do you expect to find in it?" And he said butter. And I said, I don't know. It could be
Yep.
butter, it could be jollof rice,
Could
it
be
could be a
stew.
goosey soup, it could be stew, it could be pepper soup, it could be
Yeah.
anything. Or and I asked him, "Oh, do you have like a cupboard in your kitchen dedicated to just bags that you've collected from Tesco or Waitrose or just like recycling bags?" He's like, "No," and it's like, "I do," and it's like certain stuff like that. It's like, oh, that's just like that's nice. That connects me to my culture. It's
Mm,
also very British. It's also very British as well because I have Tesco bags from years and years
mm-hmm,
and years and
mm-hmm,
years and years ago. And it's also getting me thinking about like environmentalism and how low-key Africans have a lot of very deeply entrenched environmentally friendly practices that are quite
mm-hmm,
underrated. Like the fact that we repurpose packages and containers is
mm-hmm.
is actually very environmentally friendly, and I never thought about it like
We
that.
package everything, you know, even thinking about,
Yeah,
like the bottles you get of peanuts. You take that old
yes,
plastic bottle and just fill it with something else, palm oil, whatever
yeah.
it is.
Yeah, and it's like that is such a distinctively Nigerian thing in Britain. But
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, you hear me speak, you know I'm a British guy. You listen, and then, but also at the same time, I think for a long time, because I grew up in Britain and a predominantly white environment, I was more race identified than I was nationality identified
Mm,
or ethnically identified. So the media I would consume would be primarily Black American media, and that would be my cues for blackness would be Black American media. And yes, Black Americans are doing everything. I love Black Americans so much. Like they are when it comes, their culture is like a global export. If you're speaking,
mm,
you can think of Black American because like our slang, our vernacular is so Black American. But at the same time, there's such a rich Black British culture as well that I've just recently like tapped into. Like Stormzy, for example, or even you have like the girl group Flow. I'm gonna put your shit in a cup of bugs. Like they are like that's black British culture right there. Or you have like the
mm.
Mobile Awards. Like that's black British culture right there. And now I'm just tapping into so many facets of blackness. Like blackness is beautiful, man. Like I'm
100,
just blown away. I'm just blown away.
100. Yeah. I mean, we're special. I mean, we're obviously very biased, but we're special people.
Yeah, but I think that's an objective fact. We're just
Yeah.
iconic. Like, yeah, we are like the music, the food, the
Yeah.
palaces. Like,
Mm.
who's doing it like us? Nobody.
I love it. Can I talk a bit about you and you know doing what you do and how your experience bleeds into that. So obviously you're in the writing space, you're a creative, you are you've got a few pieces of work now under your belt that you can point to and say, you know, I make this is my legacy forming here. What is that like for you as a black author, young black author in the writing space, in the creative space? What is that experience like?
It's I think I've never really thought of myself as a young black author. Not to say that I'm not a young black author, but I just think of myself as a author
Mm-hmm.
that just so happens to be black. And because of that, I just so happen to write about black experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I would never go up to Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, even though she's not a good example anymore. She's wild. But I would never go up to a white author and be like, oh, so what's it like being like a white author, you know? Because
Mm-hmm.
they're just authors that so happen to be white. I also
Mm-hmm.
understand that with the history of racism, discrimination, and oppression, there is a certain oomph that there is with being a young black author. But for me, it's just so important for me to create the representation that I
Mm-hmm.
crave
Mm-hmm.
because for a long time, because I'm a complainer, I can rant and rave for days. Like even my family has this tradition where we pick a show and we watch it. I'm watching this one show called Heartland, and it's a very good show. It's about people in like rural Canada and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just watching the show like, wow, there ain't no black people in the show. There ain't no Asian people in the show. It's a very, very white show. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like I understand that as well, but I understand why that is. But at the same time, it's like for me, for me, because I've done my research on like cowboys and like equestrian, I know that there are black people in the space. So I'm like, why aren't there black people in this show? And I complain about it. It's still a great show. I recommend everyone watch it. But at the same time, it's like sometimes it's annoying. It's just annoying. So I'm like, why don't know like people of color on the show? Why don't know black people on the show? And then my dad was like, Efe, you do all this complaining, put it to action. So I do. So so I can complain, and complaining has its space. But at the same time, it's like while I'm complaining, I'm also writing books that have black protagonists in it, that have gay protagonists in it, that have women that have like multi-dimensional arcs and characterization in it. Because I'm like, I'm not just going to shout that there needs to be a change. I'm going to be a change that there needs to be. Like, what did Michael Jackson say? I'm looking in the man in the mirror.
That's the one.
I'm asking him to change his way. No message could have been any clearer. If you want to make a world a better place, then look at yourself and make that change. And I look at myself and I made the change.
Come on. There it is.
I'm gonna continue making the change as well. And then it's also important for me to understand that as much as it's quite a big deal that I'm a 19-year-old and I already have like 2 books under my belt, I'm not the first. I'm not the first. There are so many that from Jackie Kay to Bolu to Okechukwu to Chinua Achebe to James Baldwin to Nicola Yoon to Tommy Adeyemi to like Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. There's so many black authors to Washan Shire there's so many to Zadie Smith. I'm just naming it. There's so many black authors that have created so much work that have like trailblazed for me to be able to walk through. So for me, but at the end of the day, I know this not because of school, because no, I know this because I definitely know. We'll get into that. We can get into that later. But I know this because I've actively sought out the representation that I lacked. Because I remember, I'm just
No, tell us now. Yeah.
But I remember in my 6th form, I published a anthology, so a collection of poems, short stories, essays, etc., called How Far, a series of complicated answers. And then I remember in March, our school were having like a charity run. I think it's to like save the turtles or something. Save the turtles. Woo! I mean, if we love turtles as much as we love Black Lives, maybe we'll get somewhere. But that's another conversation.
We're not ready for that one. We're not ready for that one.
Because the way people be going up for animals and animal cruelty is like,
I'm telling you, and you don't see nothing for people.
If you love me as much as you love your dog, wow, we'll be so far. But anyway, that's another. And if you felt that you needed to feel that, do something about it. You do something about it. But anyway, so when we were doing this charity run, one of like a little girl, I think she must have been like 12 or 13 years old, came up to me and she had my book and she's like, "Wow, I really love this book. You know, we don't see a lot of black authors writing like this." And in like physically, I was like, "Oh, that's really nice of you." But in my mind, I was like, "You don't? I do." And then it's like, wow. It's like because there's so much, even though there's like so much access, we have millions and millions and millions of books. But if she's not learning that in school, if she's not like an avid reader, then she might not understand that what I'm doing, there's a precedence for it. There is a lineage that I'm a part of. There is a canon that I'm a part of. So for me, but it all starts with education as well. Why is it that the only books that I learned about that had black protagonists in school all have to do with our oppression or marginalization? You know, black people fall in love, black people have crushes, black people move schools. I say move schools. Black people deal with hiding. Black people deal with euphoria. Black people deal with everyday struggles that anybody else deals with. Like black people can exist within, beyond, and in between our oppression. And I think that's important for me. That's important for me to show. Yes, race is covered in the book, but at the same time, Essay is a regular teenager that just so happens to be black, just as we are regular people that just so
That just
happen to be
happens to be
black,
black.
that
Yeah.
just so happen to be women, that just so happen to be Ghanaian, that just so happen to be Nigerian.
Mm.
None of these things. We're not alien superstars, even though we love Beyonce. We're
Her.
just human beings.
I get
We're
you.
just
But
human beings.
to speak to this little girl's point again, I think for me, again, I think specifically where I grew up, um, I don't think as a young adult, I didn't, or young person, I should say, I read books, and one of my favorite book series was actually Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. Love those
Yeah,
books,
amazing.
like exceptional, and I read those books as a young person. But apart from her, I don't know if there were any other um black authors I came across or that was available to me in my school library, in my local libraries,
Yeah,
even in local bookshops at the time, whose work spoke to the experience of a young black person growing up. And that's why I think, what you've done and what you've written is so necessary because it's so ordinary, but so extraordinary at
yeah,
the same time. And I don't say that to be insulting. I say that to say like you're saying, it's a story of somebody going through what it means to be a teenager. It's an experience
yeah,
that we all have. But the way that it's been written and the lens with which it's been written through, I think it's very important for young people to have that and to say, oh, I can relate to this character, I can relate to this author,
yeah.
I can relate to these arcs, I can relate
and
to
I can do what he did as well. And
exactly.
what yeah, because I just want everybody to know, but especially young black people to know that I'm not I'm not any better or more unique than you are. Yes, I like
Mm-hmm.
to think I'm special, but at the same time, I'm just a black British teenager that decided that one day he's gonna write a book, and I wrote a
Mm-hmm.
book.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of different factors in between that. But at the same time, I had a goal, I had a purpose, and I went after it. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't and I don't want any black person to feel like because they are black, they can't go after whatever you want. They're like at the end of the day, everything has been taken away from us from for years that we have no right to say, oh, I don't deserve this. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Grab it, grab it. Yes, you do.
With two
Take it.
hands.
Yeah, with two hands, with
Mm-hmm.
with your legs, your hips, and body. Like grab it. Like you see it, you want it. You
Go get
grind
it.
till you own
Yeah.
it. Like not
Mm-hmm.
me quoting formation, but yeah, like
I
yeah,
love it.
because it's like, yeah, because like even though sometimes I deal with imposter syndrome as well, because I'm like, wow, like are people gonna like this book? Like, is my voice like valid enough? Like I don't have these years of experience. I've not had traditional training. I don't have a literary agent, like a lot of other writers have a literary agent and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But at the same time, it's like I'm here. I
Yeah.
wrote the book.
Mm-hmm.
So, apostrophe aside, I did it and I'm going to continue to do it. And this is just the beginning for me, and this is just the beginning for us.
Yeah, 100%. Just to
Yeah.
quote an earlier podcast we did, episode 2 that we did
Mm.
with Zachariah Larry, he made a quote that said, if we learn to embrace our vulnerability as a natural human quality, then imposter syndrome will disappear. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's okay to be in a space and feel vulnerable or to feel like you haven't figured it all
Mm.
out. Newsflash, nobody has figured it all out. Nobody
Honestly,
knows what they're
everybody's a
doing.
mess.
100.
Everybody's a mess. We are all a mess.
That's one thing when I became an
Everybody, like,
adult.
yeah.
I just didn't know. I was like, oh, I thought everyone figured it out, had everything, you know what I'm saying? Child, nobody knows what's happening. And that's okay.
like honestly, like even sometimes, even just going to my lectures, sometimes I'll be like, oh, have you guys done the reading and stuff? And I'd be like, oh, no, yes, maybe. Like, and
Hmm.
I don't know. How do you guys feel about the test? They'll be like, oh, I didn't feel well. Oh, I'm hungover. Oh, I don't think I've organized everything correctly. Oh, I don't know how I'm getting home. Like everybody, even the people that you think are the most put together, the most responsible, we are all a mess and we're all just trying to
Hmm.
figure it out. The biggest lie we've been told is that there is a perfect destination.
Hmm.
No, we're all a mess. We're all a mess. We're all trying to figure it out. Everybody has lost their mind. Did we ever have it to begin with? I don't know. I don't know. But everybody's a mess. But but like we're a beautiful mess, and out of those beautiful messes is where creativity comes from. It's where
Mm-hmm.
great books come from. It's where great art comes from. Like,
Mm-hmm.
would you ever listen to an album where it's like, I'm so happy, nobody has ever hurt my feelings, I've not gone through any strife in my life. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you
Started from the
wouldn't.
top, I'm still at the top now. Yeah, no, I have nowhere to be right now. No.
Mm-hmm.
Every book has an inciting incident. Every book has a conflict. Every book has a resolution. Like
Yeah,
every life does as well. Like
yeah. It's
so,
what gives a spice.
yeah. It's yeah. What gives us spice is what gives us that extra infant stuff. Like
Mm.
for me, it's like I know I'm the person I am because of everything I've been through, because of everything I've survived. And I think I don't know you like too well, but from our conversations that we had like right now
Mm-hmm.
and us
Yeah.
behind the scenes, I know that you are everything you are because of what you've been through, and
Mm-hmm.
you are starting something as like quite monumental as Project Diaspora because of your struggles you've been through.
Mm.
Look at the incredible things that can come from struggle. Like you have
Yeah.
your own podcast, you have your own Instagram page, you are doing something revolutionary. I have books under my roster
Yeah, man.
from mess because we are
Yeah, exactly.
messy.
Yeah,
Because life is a
from pain,
mess.
mess, struggle.
Yes.
Come on.
The struggle
Um,
is real. All my life I had to fight for real.
come on, shout out Kendrick.
Shout out.
I'm telling you, I went to go see him live the other week, and wow, that was an
Really,
experience.
how was it?
Oh, that was an experience. That was a real experience. You know what I'm saying, I pushed myself through all the sweaty bodies to the front. You know what I'm saying, people's body was just dripping with
Yeah.
water like a waterfall, but I was like, doesn't matter. I swam to the people
Yeah.
and I saw them straight at the stage like this. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I made
I
it.
definitely want to see. I would definitely want to see more live concerts. I know Florida's doing a couple of like live
Mm,
concerts in like March and April. I want to see them because they're doing some in Manchester, and it's like nice for me to see like three young black British girls from the start. Like I remember when I scrolled onto Twitter in April of this year, and everybody's talking about cardboard box, and I'm like, who are these cardboard box girls? Oh my gosh!
mm.
And then to find out that Renee is Nigerian and Jamaican, I'm like, wow.
Wow, come
Three
on.
girls out for Nigeria, Nigeria for life. And
I
then
love it.
it's like what? And then it's like for me, it's like when they get like blow up for real, I'm gonna be like, yeah. Were you there for Cardboard Box though? Were you there? Were you there? It's
From
like
the
for
start
me,
though, were you?
were you actually there? Yeah, I was there from day one.
You're
From
gonna be one
day
of those
one.
ones that gate. You're like, did you know them from back? I knew them from back, and everyone's like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
like yeah. I'm definitely gonna be the one. Were you there when they were nominated for Mobile Awards when they're doing Vivo Discover? Were you there
Mm.
though? Yeah, I'm a gatekeep gaslight girl boss. Flow. I am.
That's like my
Cause for
favorite
the
phrase. I love it. Gatekeep
honest,
gaslight girl boss.
I am because like for the longest time, I don't know. For me, I do have like a propensity to like intellectualize my interests. You know, it's just okay
Mm.
to like music, but for me, I like music, but I'm like, oh, what is the larger cultural significance of this? And I think the larger
Mm.
cultural significance of this is that when is the last time that we've had an all black girl group that have reached the heights of success like Flo are about to? I think
Yeah.
maybe Cleopatra, and I was like, what,
Mm.
22 years ago? Like
Mm.
we weren't alive, but now to have an all black girl group making R&B and pop music and
Mm.
being able to get on these stages in and have quite a mediocre ride is
Mm.
so good for me to see. And I also think about it as far as like young black girls as well. What does it
Yeah.
mean for young
Yo,
black girls to
yeah.
have like to especially like 11, 12, 13 year olds
Mm.
to have in their formative years to have these three girls being the soundtrack to their lives.
Yeah, 100.
Like me as a black man, I'm like, oh my god,
Even
Flo.
you're excited. It's
Yeah,
like,
but for me, but I know it must be 10 times as gratifying and as validating for young black girls to have that as well.
yeah.
Even for me with Chloe and Halle, I'm like, oh my god, Chloe and
Wayne
Halle.
Holly's your
But for
jam, man.
young, they are honestly those are my sisters for real. Those are my best friends in my head. Love them. Like yeah, when we meet, it's gonna be like wow, wow.
When I love it. I love it.
When we meet, yeah. It's
Can
not a matter of
we
if it's when.
can I ask you just one question just to clarify and round things out a little bit? Um,
Yeah.
Another question that I love, we spoke about like behind the scenes about a few things.
Mm.
And I loved hearing the story of the why behind the book and kind of how this book came to be. Would you be able to speak a little bit about what prompted you to write essay Misadventures of Moving Forward? What came from that?
Just the BSing of 2020. If because like
Let's talk about 2020.
let's actually talk about it because what was that? That was a fever dream. It was just it was like I refuse to accept that 2020 was real. I think 2020 that was like the test run. That was the test run. That was like the test drive. That was like we're just like fixing a few glitches, a few
In the
tweaks
system.
in the simulation or
Mm-hmm.
something. Nah, but basically, it started at like spur of the moment. I remember in 2020, I was gearing up to do my GCSEs. I was 16 years old, year 11. And then obviously, Miss Corona is like, no, 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 no. You say, yeah, 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 yeah. But I say, no, 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 no. Shout out to Destiny, shout out the original four. But
Wow. Wow.
anyway, Latavia and Latoya make some noise. We
Come
love
on.
you. But no, but yeah, but basically, how many black pop cultural references can like stuff into like an hour? It needs to be a challenge because I've done too
You've
much.
done so many already.
But yeah, basically, when the pandemic hit and it was clear I wasn't going to do my GCSEs anymore, I was in sociology class, the last sociology class before we broke up. And I was like, guys, I'm going to write a book. And I announced it to my entire sociology class, and everyone was looking at me like, okay, if you say so. But because realistically, half the people in the class are my friends, half the people in my class didn't really care. So like honestly, if I wrote a book, if I didn't write a book, it wouldn't have meant anything to their lives. But I did that subconsciously to like hold myself accountable. Because I'm like, if I don't write this book, not only am I disappointing myself, I'm disappointing my friends. They did not care. But I just
Yeah, yeah.
they did not care.
You
But
didn't. You'd said it out loud, so it's kind of
I just
like,
said it out
yeah.
loud. I just said it out loud because it's like I said it out loud. I can't unsay it to take it back. So as soon as I got home, as soon as I got home, I just made a like a I didn't really plan it out the way you're traditionally supposed to plan it out. I was just like, oh, I want this book to have 12 chapters. What each of the 12 chapters is going to be about. And it started off quite autobiographical, but as I was writing it, it became bigger than just like me having a cathartic experience. It became like, wow, this is actually a book. So from March to like September of 2020, like I wrote the book, and then
Mm,
it was good that I finished it in September 2020 because that's when year 12 started and like the world was beginning to like sort of open back up.
mm,
But then I said it to my mom because she is out of my parents, she's more of like the English nerd, and my dad is more of like the STEM mathematical guy. So I sent it to my mom, and then it took her 5 months to read it because obviously she's a busy lady, girl boss, black women and everything. But yeah, BLM, I'm an ally. But anyway, but, but anyway, yeah. So when she finished reading it, she gave me notes. I made corrections based on her notes, and then
mm,
kept sending it to public. We sent it to publishers, and then at the end of 2021, just as I was about to turn 18, I finally got an offer out of like a slew of rejection. I finally got
mm.
an offer, and then from end of 2021 to now, I was just editing, drafting it, and yeah, and now you see this.
Wow.
Yeah,
We're seeing it, like we're seeing the fruition, like it's coming to,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, that must be like an intensely gratifying thing for you to be able to hold in
yeah,
your hand, the
yeah,
thing that, and like you said, we're saying about things being born of stress and frustration and pain. I guess like 2020 is really like,
yeah,
what I really like is the acknowledgement at the beginning of your book. You acknowledge
yeah,
2020.
yeah.
um,
Because yeah, I don't know. For all of 2020's fault, I don't know if I would have been as galvanized and as invigorated to write this book now. Like
mm-hmm.
when I'm definitely planning on like writing sequels to this book because the way I ended this off, it perfectly like facilitates a sequel.
Mm,
But the amount of intensity and just like passion and like just like and anger, but not anger in like a blinding sense, anger in like righteous anger that I
mm,
put into this book. You can't recreate that formula. It
yeah.
was it was of the moment, but
Mhm.
it's timeless, but it's of the
Mhm.
moment, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. And like we said, I mean, thank you 2020, but 2020 you sucked. We never
You
want to see that
sucked.
again. It was a
Yeah,
horrible
I don't
year.
want it back. Like, yeah, horrible, horrible. Definitely a lot of revelations, but like, it's like God couldn't have like gone through that revelation in like a good book. Like, why did I have to? Why did I have to have my GCSEs cancelled? Have the world shut down? Be answered to my
Mm,
friends. Have police brutality in my face, like
mm,
24/7. I'm like, my
yep.
guy. It was just
It was too much in some ways.
it was too much. It was like it just proves to me that wow, I'm not one of God's strongest shoulders. I'm not, and I didn't even
Yeah.
have like a hard time because I didn't have to worry about there being food on my table. Both my parents
Mm,
were still able to keep their jobs, so I was relatively safe. I didn't get COVID or anything, so I was relatively safe. But still, just like the backdrop of
mm,
stress, it was too much for me. I was like, thank you 2020 for all that you've taught me, but next time, God, if you want to teach me a lesson, just get me a good book, just get me a good book, get
yep.
me a good book, or send me a cute Bible verse, but I can't
Yeah.
deal with this again.
Yeah, that was
No,
too much. I think in some
too
ways it was a
much.
really great eye opener and leveler for a lot of people. I think for a lot of things changed post 2020. And
Yeah,
that speaks to your experience of writing the book as well, is that it gave us the um how do I say this? Like it helped us to refocus our mindset and kind of be
yeah,
more like you're saying, galvanized, maybe a bit more radical in pursuing what we believe and pursuing, the things that we want to produce, our outlets and that kind of thing. Just off the back of with police brutality and the death of George Floyd, RIP.
yeah.
But I think that I don't want to call it a silver lining because it really was a terrible year. But
It was.
the thing that it taught us, it really kind of helped, I think, a lot of people reshift and refocus.
Yeah,
And the fact that something so beautiful like your book could be born out of such a terrible, awful, horrible year, I think
yeah.
is testament to that.
Yeah, and I think that isolation definitely helped with like me writing my book as well. Because I think if I was still in school, I just have like so many like voices surrounding me, so many opinions surrounding me. But because I wrote this just by myself in my room, like a couple of hours every day.
Mm,
It was just me writing. Yes there was self doubt, but it was just me. It was just
mm,
me. It was just me and the pen and the paper.
mm,
It wasn't me thinking about oh the market or is there like a space for my book in the market? Oh, will
mm,
people receive this well? Yes, all those doubts are now in my head now. I'm thinking about it
mm-hmm,
as we
mm-hmm,
speak. But as I wrote the book, I was just thinking about I just need to get this out or else I'm going to explode. And
mm-hmm.
I got it out.
That's amazing. This has been a really insightful, interesting, funny conversation, and I've loved it.
Yeah.
I think what you've done is incredible. I think again, not to again harp on this thing about being a black author because you're right, you're an author who just happens to be black. However, I think it's really great for people to see
Yeah,
another
but
example.
black authorship is so important because I don't know, I don't think a lot of black people are like even even like encouraged to just like write down their feelings. Like I'm not saying,
Yeah.
oh, be an author, be the next Chinua Achebe, be the next Bolu, be the next this or
Hmm.
that. I'm saying simply like if you're having a bad day, do you have a laptop? If you don't have a laptop, do you have a pen and paper? Do you have a
Yeah.
notepad? Just simply saying, I had a bad day, this is why. Like I
Hmm.
think if a lot of people just like wrote out how they're feeling, and if a lot of people learned just how to communicate their feelings, I think we'll be in a much better space. And I don't think a lot of black
Hmm.
people are encouraged to do that. And also, I think it also starts with education system as well. Like, we need more black books on the curriculum that do not have to do
Hmm.
with our oppression. We
Yeah.
need that.
Listen, we're tired of
We
slavery,
need
man.
because yeah, I mean the slavery narratives are important. We need to know that slavery
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
happened.
Of course.
It was an atrocity, and it needs not to happen again. Just as we need to learn about the Holocaust. But we
Hmm.
know that Jewish people are so much more than the Holocaust. So we
Hmm.
need to know that Black people are so much more than civil rights, slavery, this or that. Like
Hmm.
we need more black books in the curriculum. It just has to do with black people in. basically.
100%.
Because if we, as cliche and as like trite as it sounds, if we see it, we can believe it. So if I can see that I can be an astronaut, a lawyer, an author, a dancer, a accountant if I want to be, if I can see it, I can believe it.
Yeah.
But if I can only see that I can only be this, if I can only be oppressed, if I can only be marginalized, if I can only be teared down by the system, that's all I'm going to believe I can be. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I'm labeled as this, I'm going to continue to live as this, and then that's going to be my life outcome. So yes, we need more Black books on the curriculum that just have to do with Black people. We need more, and we just need more Black people reading diverse texts that have to do with us as well. If you want to read a fantasy book, yes, Harry Potter's good, but you can read Children of Blood and Bone as well. If you want to read, or you can read Noughts and Crosses. If you want to read a YA novel, yes, you can read. You can read the After series or the Kissing Booth. But you can also read essay The Misadventures of Moving Forward, or you can read Honey and Spice, or you can read what other books I have, or you can read Children of Virtue and Vengeance, or you could read. Let me just recommend Here Again Now.
Here it is. Come on.
Yeah,
there's options for us now. Yeah. There's options.
For every genre you're interested in, there are Black people carving out space for you.
Awesome.
And we need to be exposed to that, basically.
100%.
That's my manifesto.
That's amazing. Listen,
the people.
Efe, thank you so much for taking your time to speak with us and giving your experiences and your thoughts. We love it, and everything you said. I mean, it's so. I'm gonna get it printed on a T-shirt. I'm gonna maybe somebody, if you're listening to this, maybe you can count how many references, you know what I'm saying, you put into this episode, and maybe I'll call the Guinness.
50, 11 or something. It's too much.
Oh yeah, something like that. I'll call the Guinness Book of World Records, and you know what I'm saying, we could work something out. But
add something else to my notch. Yeah.
Where can we find more about you? Where can we buy the book?
So you can buy the book on, if you just search up Essay The Misadventures of Moving Forward, it'll be available on Amazon, WH Smith, the Books Depository, Barnes and Noble. Just
Barnes and Noble. Wow.
Yeah, we're international in this. Like, if you're in New Zealand, I think it's available in Wheelers. There's a place called Foyles as well. Like, basically anywhere you can think about buying books online, it should be available there. And then also, if you want to know more about me on just like a personal level, then you can find me on Instagram at Efe I'll spell that out for you. It's like my full name. It's very long. It's EMOEFE OGHENE. And if you want to find me on Twitter, is at Efe Imoyin. And then if you want to find me and then I have a link tree as well that just has all my social media links. I think we'll just link that in the
we'll put that in
show notes and everything. And it'll just have everything on me. And then my DMs are always open. So feel free to flood it with whatever you want. And then and that's where you can find me.
I love it. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
We will see you guys on the next installment, the next episode. So in the meantime, peace.